So yeah, my name is Daniel Olivares-Cordero, and I'm a PhD candidate at USC. I study marine biology. So I study coral and anemones right now. And yeah, it's part of this is about like my course, but I thought it'd be cool to kind of like also chat about like everything that led up to like that most recent like activity. So I'll kind of just start at like the beginning or like the motivations to like literally everything I do is my mentors. So when I was in high school, I was part of a college prep program called PACE, or the Pomona College Academy for Youth Success. And the two directors at the time were very instrumental in like getting me to where I'm at. Just considering like I grew up in mostly like low income community, they didn't really have access to like scientists or anybody that pretty much represented where I wanted to be in the future. But just having access to like mentors, especially like Sergio, at the time was super important to like keep me interested in continuing like some sort of career in college and then beyond that. And then just mentors when I was actually an undergrad. I was part of the TRIO SSS student support program. So it's for underrepresented, low income, first generation, and students with disabilities, and also part of the McNair Scholars Program. So a branch with like the bigger program, and similar, just had mentors there that were super instrumental, not just in like giving me community in college, but fostering a community when I did eventually end up in research, because it took a couple years to even get there to begin with. So I'll just move on. So I just mentioned stuff related to being in college, being an undergrad. Right. I was a biology major, and it wasn't like I knew what research or any of that was. I was pre-med, in fact, and it wasn't until like I discovered I could do research like in ecology and evolution specifically, that I started getting really passionate about like my biology degree. So much so that I got to research opportunities. And then after I got those opportunities, I was like, how do I start giving back? Right? Because I thought of the mentors from the beginning of this talk and everything they gave to me. So how do I give back to my community, at least that, and I didn't explain it. I was at CSUMB undergrad, but how do I give back to my community, at least at CSUMB? Because we didn't have much exposure to research at that institution. And some of the beginning things were just educating people in TRIO and the McNair Scholars Program, etc at CSUMB about these summer research opportunities. So not just presenting it in the form of like an RU or an SF, because we all know that those are the main summer research experiences, but they're not the only ones. But creating resources, presenting, making events, presenting about these opportunities. And yeah, and then I just love like a giant resource, which is pretty outdated now, I'm pretty sure, because this is like 2019, but of like hundreds of summer research experiences that I'm pretty sure folks at CSUMB still use to this day. But this is really like the start of like, not only how do I, like, I was in research, but like, how do I start giving back to my community through the research that I'm doing? Similar to like mentors that I had in the past that gave me so much. So after undergrad, I was a master's student, but I had like some McNair alum who wanted to create a space within the McNair Scholars Program to pretty much just foster the same values, but try to like give things that we necessarily wanted, but we didn't get when we were McNair Scholars. So it's Ari Perez Montes and Alexandria Cervantes. They're PhDs in communications, or they're in PhD programs in communications and education. Um, and we just, especially during lockdown too, we wanted to create a space where we fostered mentorship in the McNair Scholars Program, but we also created a bunch of workshops related to decolonizing the practice of research. And I specifically specialize in decolonizing eco-Evo, and created some workshops from that. and explore topics like parachute science or like redefining broader impacts because we wanted to kind of start fostering those ideals in like the McNair Scholars Program, and that was one of the things that we really wanted but didn't really get anything of. Um, and this led to like other opportunities beyond this program because we only existed probably for like a year. But it was really cool because so many students got into like fully funded PhD programs from this. But this was really a pivot to continuing that sort of work related to decolonizing practices and ecology and evolution. So that led me to, on the left, working with two other ecology and evolutionary biologists, Cesar Estienne and Brandon Quintana. And we just did like a perspective article on specifically like reimagining broader impacts within the NSF GRFP, which just
And
goes
then
over like,
before,
yeah.
oh, sorry to interrupt you. I was gonna say before you get too deep, would you be able to just like define what you mean when you say decolonizing science? In case
Yeah, of
people haven't
course.
heard that.
Sorry. I'm like going super fast with this because I don't want to, yeah, but decolonizing is just, and I'll explain it within the context of ecology and evolution. It's just rethinking the way we do our work. So, for example, if I'm going to, let's say in Coral, if I'm going to go work in Palau or some sort of like island nation, the the common practice has been to go to a community that I have no attachment to as like a Western researcher, let's say, and just take and like it's been very common to not give back. So take in the form of like samples, take in the form of like publishing research without giving any credit to any of the people of those places. And that's like the specific example of like parachute science. So it's kind of like reimagining that through actually trying to foster a community of researchers in those areas. In this example, to actually empower like local scientists within the community that we do research in to be able to study their own things. Um, does that explain it?
Yeah, thank you.
Oh yeah. And I'm just gonna be like blitzing through all this. So yeah, I'm happy to take any questions after this. So yeah, like a lot of like for that example, like stuff like that is mentioned in that article, and it was cool to like continue that work at that time. But I also wanted to, and thank you for that question, Angelique. I also wanted to bring this to my own research, like the broad field of coral biology. And I was able to do it through the ICRS Student Early Career Committee, where a couple folks pictured on the right, we made a panel to just discuss perspectives of indigenous and local coral reef scientists and really try to highlight who they are, their work, and to get their perspective on being in this field because it is very underrepresented by the people that I think should be represented very well in this field. And yeah, and feel free to ask me questions about it later, but yeah, I'm just gonna keep going. So I'm talking about mentorship, about teaching through workshops, like not just my research, but the way I think research should be done, all under like the scope of trying to be more inclusive and equitable with our research. Um, some of the efforts that I did before I became a PhD student at USC, I wanted to bring it to USC. So I am Latino and I am, I think, like the only person in my family to be doing a PhD right now. Um, and I really wanted to highlight stories and make a short story series of early career Latino, Latina, Latinx scientists, and ecology and evolution. So we can just be highlighted in some way, right? Because uh, I won't go into it, but I just really wanted to make that resource so people could come back to it from years to come and read those stories and probably like relate in some way. And people on the right were the people that helped me do this. Yeah,
Nice switch.
sorry. Excuse me. And yeah, it was a really cool opportunity. It was really cool to be able to share all their stories and learn about just like my identity even more so, like in this field. And then finally, or before I get onto like the course bit, more, sorry, that's my dog. More work that I did within USC was to try to increase the amount of like diverse um candidates that we even had coming into this program because there was a lot of just antiquated practices in the way people would recruit in this program. And I just brought in like all that network from like my undergrad to be able to create like open house resource or to create an open house to share about share through educational workshops how to become like a competitive graduate student or graduate student applicant. But yeah, all right, it's a little pause. And then before I get to the course, more of this work within like the USC has been done in something called the Fun Interactive Science Hour. This is an initiative started by postdocs back in 2020 during lockdown to try to create like digestible educational resources in the LA Public Library system to like educate students about simple topics um like the differences between like warm water and cold water and how they create waves or um how DNA looks, you know, like simple things. And this has been going on for 4 years, something that I've been a lead on now for like 2. And we've been able to share these resources um at 3 different library branches throughout the years. But yeah, through all this work, like I really wanted to do something that kind of brought me back home or kind of brought every bit of experience that I had in my field and gave it back to like my community in some way. So I'll be sharing that in like the last bit of this talk through something that I made last summer, which was a climate change literacy course. And I essentially went back to PACE. So that early program back in my high school that I credit for a lot of like my success now. I went back as an instructor, and given that like some of the broader impacts of my work relates to climate change and just basic like ideas of symbiosis, I created a course where I exposed like just like the most trendy or like the hot topic articles in my field to try to increase literacy of like climate change science. Because again, growing up where I grew up, there wasn't many of those resources. There wasn't many resources to like what a scientist is beyond, I don't know, like a doctor or dentist, right? So I kind of, yeah, just wanted to start that in this program. Well, not started, but like try to contribute to it more. And did it with the permission of the directors, which are pictured there. And the other photos are just like where it's at and how it looks. So this is gonna turn a little bit into a research talk, but it is very digestible. I also wanted to see like like their progress or how that literacy changed before and after. So do you typically see these in survey formats before and after by means of like a Likert scale? So low means low engagement, high means high engagement. So this course was really just like an introduction to what climate change in the news looks like. So through primary and secondary sources, teaching them what those things are. My research covers a lot of theory of symbiosis or hypotheses of symbiosis and how it's related to climate change because it's a super important biological aspect of like a coral. So I use like my own examples to try to relate like the broader um, idea of like climate change. And we use the coral algal symbiosis and the coral microbiome as like primary reading examples. And then they got to choose a topic to share back to the class related to climate change and or symbiosis. So, I mean, these ideas aren't just relevant for like coral bleaching or coral themselves. They're relevant for like broader sectors like forestry or agriculture, etc. So yeah, that was the idea of the class. And I just wanted to show some quick results based on the question. I just picked some questions to highlight. So there's a density plot. So on the blue is like the before questions and the yellow is like the after questions. And I saw like positive engagement and how regularly they're exposed to climate change news after the course. Um, in addition, I saw like their like literacy when it came to like climate change literature greatly increased throughout being exposed to this stuff throughout the course. And then like how motivated are they to continue in some sort of career related to climate change science? It kind of increased, right? Um, Not everybody was like an environmental scientist in that class, so that's why I think um, there wasn't such a quick pivot to the right, but I just wanted to highlight those results. But yeah, I really just in talking to y'all, I really blitzed through like years worth of work very quickly. So I'm probably sorry for being all over the place. But right now I don't really have much going on, but I'm open to collaborating. Um, and I think just the main inspiration of this work was being a student who didn't really have resources like in high school and college. But I did have like mentors that strongly advocated for me and just lit the fire of wanting to make something of my education. And as I became more and more niche or specialized in my field, I just wanted to give that back. So all this work through mentoring, teaching, and outreach has been just showing like that reciprocal like passion back to other people. So yeah, thanks for listening and thank you for having me on. Oh,
Awesome.
also, let's stand up for science. If y'all haven't heard about this, check out the QR code, but definitely do plan to be at this event. I know JP's been putting a ton of work into it, but with that, I'm done.
Yes, yes, definitely stand up for science. JP is normally very active in the chat and on camera during these, but he is literally on the phone with senators right now in DC, kind of helping put that together. So, um, yeah, a great team behind that, and I'm super excited for that on Friday. Um, and yeah, thank you, Daniel. That was awesome. That was definitely could tell kind of spanned many years of work. And I'm excited to, during the questions, kind of get into it a little bit more.